All right, this one goes out to all you There's Treasure Inside hunters. All right, a very rare, at least lately, here's a TTI focused video. And what really made me want to do this one is because some of you have asked, hey, are you ever going to do one again? I'm still actively working on it. It's just, I don't have any new stuff. And I don't, what's one of the reasons why I don't have a set schedule. It's why I haven't published something like, hey, every Monday afternoons or every Tuesday mornings, I'll go live at this time, because I don't know if I'm going to have anything, and I don't want to just get on air for, the sake of making a video, right? Again, respect your time. And so out of respect for you guys, I did turn back and see if there's anything new that I could share. And I think where I want to start is the Forest Fenn box. So it's been a month or two since I had updated solves for all the small boxes. And there has been some new information that came out with either searchers that are reporting back, hey, I talked to this ranger, hey, I got this brochure at this place, hey, this trail's closed, hey, this area looks like that. And so really, I'm able to do this because I haven't been boots on the ground for a lot of these places, but the community is sharing information that is verified by a couple sources. I try not to just go off of whatever one person says, right? Hey, this park is closed, right? Definitely not here. And then it turns out they're just trying to hide it and protect it, right? So accumulation of all of those details, the communities sharing, the communities expressing what happened on their boots to the ground, is I'm able to take that and digest it and see if I can twist or refine or come up with new kind of thoughts. And it's particularly the Forest Fenn one, it's a good place to start because it's the start of part 2, right? We're on page 204. But it contains a poem, and I've done nothing but stare at poems, Justin's poem for the last month. So let's go in. A few things, again, we're on page 204. A few things jump out as far as differences, right? Comparing and contrasting. When you're a treasure hunter, especially if you're a new treasure hunter, you don't really have that much to base off. You might be basing a lot of your theories and thoughts over, Hollywood films or popular depictions of treasure hunts. And then you're trying to, understand what the author says and use both of those to formulate how you're going to attack this, right? So right off the bat, looking on here, we see a nice, pretty image. This isn't new to anybody, but this lets you know what you're looking for, right? Which is not a lot of hunts, or I won't say not a lot. I'll say not all hunts do that. Some hunts you don't know what you're looking for. You just know that it'll be immediately recognizable, right? So from what we understand, from what Justin said about how he put this book together, right? He didn't say, it took me 4 to 6 hours to put together a poem. I wrote this book in like a couple of weeks. No, this is everything he said it's taken years. He had his researchers, research all the history about a bunch of stuff. He sat down, he put that together. He tried to come up with his own history to put in there, his own stories and experience to tie into. And I think that's pretty noticeable. I mean, humbly, I think I'm able to tell differences, not all the time, but differences in the little chapters and the big chapters of where he's talking about history or talking from a historical point of view versus sharing his own personal experience, right? I think I'm able to tell. I've heard other people are able to tell that also, right? So let's go through this one. Again, we're starting fresh, trying to come up with something new here, because the reason why we're coming up with something new is because everything we've tried so far hasn't yielded a box, right? So we got to go back to the drawing board. What's that old saying? If the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So we start out talking about, as you may recall earlier in the book, right? Which is one thing I really struggle with when he says everything you need to know is in the small chapter, and then he immediately tells you, hey, remember earlier in the book when I was talking about? So I've made peace with it. It is what it is. That, hey, for the most part, all you need is the small chapter for the small box, but maybe you'll find a few hints in the rest of the book, right? That's my own personal belief. That's how I'm taking it. Some people read his words differently. I mean, it's hard for me to look at the sentence like that. You may recall earlier in the book, right? Asking you to recall something you read earlier in a different part of the book. Anyways, moving on. He mentions he traveled to Japan in 2016, all right, on advice from a friend. In many ways, Japan felt like home, right? That's pretty interesting, that concept of home. Going on, talks about the what if, right? That's a game we're all playing, is a what if or a where if game. A lot of hyphens in that. Might do if I had an extra me list. Treasure hunter, 2 words, italicized, 2-word sentence right there. Talks about, a regal vessel cutting through, some pirate imagery coming along, right? Then he talks about how he got into Fenn's hunt. There's nothing open or blatantly as obvious in this treasure hunt. Like where Justin says, hey, the 3 things, the stories that shape me, my obsessions, and things that I love. I forget the 3. I just read it yesterday. But there's nothing that really says that. The only thing that really leads us to do a deep dive in the man comes from this section I'm about to read right here, right? This is on page 205. I wasted no time. I dove in. I read his memoir and his poem. I looked over many years worth of archived treasure hunter blog posts and chat room discussions, right? I zoomed in on Google Images. I poured over physical maps. I watched every moment of every Forrest Fenn interview, on and on and on. So that section right there is what's giving searchers the push or the nudge to do the same thing to JCB, right? Hey, it's fair game if that's how you hunt, that's how you came about. Well, I mean, he didn't find anything, but so that could be a whole nother angle. Hey, I did all this and it didn't work. Maybe you shouldn't do all that. And that's that's one of those messages within a message. Like, what is he exactly trying to say here? But that's I think that's one of the main reasons and justifications that people use to go deep dive into someone, right? And I mean, I'm guilty of it. Early on when it was just the one hunt, I did my own deep dive into him, right? Didn't find anything that particularly helped. But the reason why I bring that up is because with Justin, when he says he gives you the, hey, get into my mind, figure out my obsessions, places that shaped me and all that, and then he talks about them. So when JCB is talking about his background, oftentimes it's particularly related to the treasure item or the topic at hand. And let me see if I can explain this correctly, because I don't know if I'm communicating the point that I'm trying to make, right? So with Justin, whenever he starts a story about his life or about something, you're looking for those 3. You're looking for obsessions. You're looking for things that shaped him, places that he loved or whatever. With JCB, when he starts into something, and I know I just went down this rabbit hole a couple of videos ago of inspiration, right? Where he finds inspiration. And that's kind of the justification that I was using, right? When I'm looking for it, I'm looking for those 5 topics. And I just have to take a look back, because one, I kind of finished it and it didn't really lead anything grand, right? Because again, if there's no like grand cipher here, so we're not trying to, figure out the sentences and take the first letter and anagram and cipher and shift, and it to me, it should be an apparent message, right? That you may take a while to dig to get it, but you don't have to then decipher it once you get it. This led me down another separate rabbit hole of how do you ensure as a creator that your hunt is going to last, going to stand the test of time? The argument could be made, I always have to tread lightly when I bring up Fenn, because again, full disclosure, like I'm a Fenn, I'm not even a newbie, I'm a Fenn nobody. Like I didn't participate in that hunt. It's all, after the fact. But from my understanding, the argument could be made that nobody came to the solve yet through the poem or the books, right? It was kind of, depending on who you believe in the story, right? Jack did it, or whoever did it, using old articles that were archived, written by the father about a fishing hole, combined with studying interviews and looking for slip-ups, right? So the poem as it was, and the 9 clues or whatever, was never cracked. It just wasn't. So if you take away the digging into archives, the old newspaper articles about fishing holes, and if that's the story you want to go with, the poem still hadn't been cracked, right? All we have is our best guess, and people trying to use common sense to bring some closure after the fact. So in my mind, it was, I don't know about well written, but it was really difficult, right? So is this the same kind of thing that the poem and the words as written in the book will just take years and years and years to crack. And it's only by somebody catching a small slip up, an article written in a local paper by a relative leading some insight on a certain word or a certain proper noun, or a slip up that he tells somebody in a conversation over a drink of choice, right? Is that how it's going to be solved? And is that why people are just, I mean, I get it. It's a short poem. They've exhausted it. So they're moving on to try and, all different things. Because, it's frustrating to stand still. People want to keep moving, right? Human nature. So, again, let me try to calm down and make sure I'm communicating legibly here and clearly. Because I feel like I've strayed a little bit early on. The point I think I'm trying to make is trying to understand as a creator, specifically JCB, how has he constructed the words in this short story? We're focusing on the fourth Fenn box. In the words of the poem and the words in the chapter, how has he layered it so that it's still unable to be cracked, to be solved, to be found? It's just super, super vague? Let's go ahead and dive and turn into it right now. I cruise along a road I know, right? Is that just, maybe the correct definition is just road, right? We're all trying to find which road, and he never meant for that to be found. This is hypothetical speaking here, right? I cruise along a road I know, park my car off to the side. You're looking for a turnoff, a road and a turnoff. Near where I search for heavy loads. Near some place that has gold. Right? It's not there, although I tried. A little tie into the past. So your first stanza, just hypothetically speaking, the correct interpretation could be, hey, drive it down the road and look for a turnoff. That's super vague. That's everywhere, right? Let's go on to the second one. Begin it where cool water flows. Most water, most of the year, if you just dip your hand in, feels cool, unless it's a hot spring, right? Follow through a canyon round. In the four Fenn states, most waters go through canyons. Taken in the rolling highs and lows, could mean anything. Could just mean rapids in the river, passed by a place where once was brown. Capitalized could be your first significant hint. So the first two stanzas, the first 2 out of 6 stanzas, one third of the way through the poem, and all we have, hypothetically, if this is a really vague poem, all we have is drive down the road, look through a turn, look for a turnoff. The road is by a river with a little bit of rapids or disturbances in the middle of it, and you'll find the place. Go by a place that was once named Brown. That was where once was Brown. So not even a place named where once a Brown at some point. Sorry, I didn't turn on that do not disturb mode. Okay, here we go, locked in. A Brown at some point stayed there. All right, so hypothetically speaking, if you wanted to make this hunt last forever, and you wanted a really vague introduction start that would take people forever to find, you could have that as your interpretation. Drive down a road, look for a turnoff. The road is by a river. The river has some rapids in it. Someone named Brown once stayed by here, right? Moving on. From here, you're more on your own. It could just be it's not a popular path. The path is always drawing nigh. The path, it could be not a switchback path or a path that kind of leads in one direction. The path doesn't circle back. The path doesn't veer. It's just one interpretation of it. The compass now points now toward the home of point and tree and seeing eye. Right? If you want a really, really vague, I've heard all kinds of stuff for this one. I'm sure you have, as a viewer, heard all kinds of things for it. If you're watching my video, you're probably watching other videos. And you could just be, hey, if you have a compass, it doesn't, it points back home, which is maybe home is somewhere in the book, somewhere in this chapter, right? Japan, right? That's a home mentioned in this chapter. The poem, the compass points east or west, because Japan could be either side, depending on, where you're standing. A point in tree and sea, tree, that's super vague, right? C and I could be anything. So again, halfway through, 3 stanzas in, and it's a possibility that the correct interpretation is, I drive down the road, you're supposed to drive down the road, look for a turnoff. The road will be by a river. The river will have some rapids in it. Someone named Brown once stayed by there. The path, when you do park and you get off of this road by this water where Brown once stayed, the path will head into a general direction. Thanks, right? And your compass or what you're following is going to be east or west or north or south. Pick a direction. All right, you can make it all fit. And that's, shoot, we're halfway through the poem, and that's as far as we've got. And then maybe there's one or two lines toward the end that draws it all together. But in my mind, that's a really, the way I'm leaning toward, not saying it to that extreme, but a vague interpretation of at least the earlier parts is because you guys are really smart. Like, this is me not being insulting. There's a lot of intelligent people that watch this my channel. There's a lot of intelligent people that bought the book, that know about it, that have been consulted, that have had friends that had said, hey, you're smart. Can you look at this poem? So that's a lot of brain power. In my mind, if it's something specific, especially to that location, I know a lot of people have gone boots on the ground in the area. I know natives of that area know about this hunt. Maybe not as many as could be, right? But some knowledgeable one, right? I mean, just in the couple of months that I've been a part of this community, I've met, shed hunters, elk hunters, foragers, all kinds of people, proper woodsmen who spend a lot of time in there, who would pick up on, this is their terrain, this is their backyard, right? And nothing in the poem is clicking for them. So that leads me to believe, again, just for right now, right? I'm not going too long, a couple more minutes, we're at 16 minutes, leads me to believe that maybe the correct interpretation is just super, super vague in the beginning. And there's something small at the end that'll crack it, or it's just, hey, this is just designed to be really tough, right? The only thing that's going to solve this is years and years of boots on the ground. The community working together, communicating. Hey, I was at this park. I checked out this park. I checked out this park. That way we can say, hey, this is where we've been, right? I mean, there's no checkpoint you're looking for. There's no the verification. He said nothing about, there doesn't need to be any confirmers in here, right? So just a little bit of what's my message here? What's my takeaway here? Don't get discouraged, right? If you're beating yourself up over not being able to solve it, don't get discouraged. I've heard some people, are moving on to other things. That's fine. Move on. Come back. Move on. Get some experience, something else. Hey, I can say this now with no ulterior motive because my hunt is over. Get involved in a small hunt, right? Get some easy wins under your belt. Get a feeling of what it feels like to actually find something, to actually know what you're looking for, right? Have small hunt creators are great at engagement, right? Because that's their lifeblood. They're trying to market. Talk to some small hunt creators. Get their feedback, right? And that'll help build your, mental Rolodex build your mental, what's the word I'm looking for? Mental inventory of ways to attack, ways to approach, ways to go about a solve, right? So, I mean, that's kind of my main takeaway from here is get involved with some small hunts. Start locally. I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of hunts. I'm learning every single day. I learn about a new hunt that takes place. Whether you're into hunting, whether you're looking for antler sheds, whether it's small tire shops in Ohio that are hiding $1,000 cash out in the woods. On Facebook, there's all kinds of small hunts you can get involved in, right? Instagram, if you're in a big city, people hide cash. People hide little QR codes that you can scan. There's tons of small hunts I'm learning every single day. If you're stuck on a big one, hey, spend some time in a small one. Engage with the hunt, with the creator, right? Engage with that community. Get some easy wins. Hopefully you can find something. And at least give you a feeling of, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is how it's worked in the past. And the way I say that, the reason why I say that is because while JCB may have only publicly said that he did the Fenn hunt and then he jumped in his own hunt, we know that he's been, well, we don't know, we trust him at his word. Well, we know because other people have come out and verified, right? Some of his friends have said the same thing, that he does run other type of hunts or mysteries or, Dungeons and Dragons, thematic, puzzle weekends, stuff like that. So, I mean, you have to take him. I'll say this: if you don't take him at his word and don't think he's acting in good faith, it just leads you down a dark path. Which, I mean, there's enough dark things in this world. I don't need to go down it on my own. So I'm choosing to stay on the puppy path for now. I'm choosing to be optimistic and say, hey, I'm taking him at his word. The reason why we haven't been able to find anything so far is not because he's being malicious or intentionally red herrings, it's because it's so vague in what we're looking for. That's why. And it's just going to be brute force, which is fair with the treasure this amount. I mean, you don't want it solved that easily. If you had a very specific solve, or your first couple of stanzas were able to be deciphered to an exact area, there's always that possibility that it gets solved really, really quickly. The only way as a creator you can protect it is by making your first couple of clues very, very vague. And then the only way they come about is by brute forcing, right? So, just my 2 cents. Again, I told you there's nothing groundbreaking. Just a new way of looking at the puzzle, a new way of looking at the poem on Fenn's Hunt. So, I plan to do a couple of these. It's going to be a slow rollout. Again, there is a little bit a spike of interest in this hunt, so that's why I really want to do it today. But Justin's is still hot right now, and I feel like I'm close to something. But I've been there before, and it didn't pan out. So, but I'm staying optimistic. I still have another video coming, a thank you video for 2,000. I'm trying to think of something fun, something. I don't know about a giveaway yet. I don't know. I don't really have much to give away. I've already given away what I can give away. But I'll think of some fun video to do to thank you guys for 2,000 subscribers. So tell a friend about treasure hunting. Get involved in local hunts, and have a good time, man. Be safe out there. Bye.